Hey, everybody, and welcome to Boss Talks. I'm your host, Evan Happel with Community Boss, and we are the presenting company behind this great show. And we have a great guest for you today. It's episode 88, and we have Kim Boland from Morgan Properties, and she is the Director of Digital Marketing. You may know her because she has been on some great panels at different conferences and also a lot of different other podcasts and things, sharing her opinions and knowledge that she's gained through her years in the industry. But I am super excited to hear from her and talk about some of the things she's passionate about. She really loves to connect people to technology and make suggestions on things that are very useful to the multifamily industry. So hearing from her in that sense will be very interesting. So the residents and people living on site at communities, how it is that technology can augment that in other ways to make the customer experience better. So it'll be a great show. But she also just has a passion for dogs. So we'll talk about her dogs that she has. She has 5 pups, and just talking to her a little bit, they are some big ones. So very interesting to have 5. These aren't little mini dogs. No chihuahuas here. So it'll be a great show today. So before we get there, again, Community Boss, we are a prop tech solution that helps you manage your physical spaces. We have parking, amenities, and mapping covered. So if you have any needs when it comes to really tackling your guest parking, resident parking, any revenue you want to generate through that, and also amenities and making it a fair environment for all, we can definitely cover you there. And then rolling it up to a beautiful map that makes it a better experience for your communities when it comes to knowing where everything is and getting acquainted to the new place they live. So if you have any questions, let me know. Love to answer them. But today, Kim is coming to the show. Kim, thanks for being here.
How are you?
I am good. So happy to have you. And you are yet another representative of the great state of Pennsylvania as we head into this year, Philly being our location for our apartmentalize. And so I'm so happy to have you and others from Pennsylvania representing and sharing what's so great about your state and what's going on there. Is there anything we need to know as we head to Pennsylvania?
I'm so glad everybody's finally coming to the east. We spend a lot of time flying out west, so great place of Philadelphia. It's an adventure. There's lots of history. So, when
Right.
everybody's here, the Liberty Bell, a lot of history has taken place in this area, right where sort of I'm sitting. It's very close to Valley Forge, where George Washington rode and lived for a short time. So, if you're a history buff, I think it's a great experience to, check out the area surrounding, where NAA is, and you know, just change of pace from the West Coast. So excited to have
Absolutely. Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, I was looking at the map, even right next to where the convention center is. There's so much history right there, and it's very interesting because honestly, like we always think about Washington D.C. for everything, but really a lot of it started in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So uh, can be easy to forget. Probably not for the people that live there, but all all the rest of us living other places, it can be easy to forget.
Yeah.
And then there's also the Rocky statue. So you always have to go run over to that area. I'm
That's right.
thinking
See how
whether or
many
not
people run those steps, after the
I
conference and during
know. Yeah. See how many people have any energy to run those steps after the
the conference.
conference.
That as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm super excited to head your direction in just like a month and a half. It's crazy that we're almost there. So pretty excited to head there and planning everybody's doing, both attending and suppliers and all the things going on right now. Finally having it all happen will be fun. So, and I hope you're able. So, we're going to have our second annual boss brunch where we're getting all the bosses, both people that have been our customers, been on the show, boss talks, and just boss friends, having some breakfast together as we kick off Apartmentalize. So, should be a fun time. All right, Kim. There is just a couple questions I'd like to kick off the show with. and then we'll get to all the topics that you're so passionate about. So, first off, when it comes to building community, how is it that you like to do that in your professional and personal life?
So, building community. So, I think one thing that's really amazing, especially about this industry, are probably some of the best people I've ever met. Luckily for us, even though people jump around, no one ever goes too far. So, people have been in my life probably for 15 years, right? So just, reaching out and, I know a lot of people don't like the whole aspect of social media and connecting, but, especially with their vendors, but, some really great people, I connect with on a regular basis or, you know, on social media so I can keep in touch with them, even when I'm not working. And then I think that's made relationships stronger in the aspect of, of my work life. So when we go to conferences and we get to go to different events, I'm so excited to see people. You're just not an attendee. It's like you're there to actually see your friends. So I spend a lot of time reaching out to people. People get married, people have babies. It's just really exciting to see people's lives have changed and just to, be a part and congratulate people through that process. So just keeping in touch with the people who I've really connected with over time. Personal life, I have 3 children. So, that school life, that school balance of going to events and, walking in your neighborhood and just meeting, everybody in your neighborhood. So, if you see somebody, talk to them. That's a huge thing. I try to, in my house, I'm an introvert. When I'm outside, I tend to be an extrovert. So just to connect with people. So.
Yeah, yeah. Which, when you're home, you're probably just recuperating. Being an extrovert out and about means home means that's where you're recharging. I'm sure that's exactly how I am.
When I fall asleep at 8:30. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, it's pretty common for me to watch a show late at night and be like,
Can't get through it. Yes.
yeah. Well, yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I like to connect with people and I think sometimes people would mistake me for an extrovert, but it's like, nope, that just means later on I'm crashing.
Yes.
No, that's great. All right. So next question, when it comes to hospitality, if you were to host people in your home, what is it that you would provide for them as a meal to share hospitality?
Well, it depends seasonal, right? So if it's warm weather like it is now in Pennsylvania, definitely a barbecue.
Okay.
Always make sure there's enough food. Maybe, my background, just making sure there's enough, a Jewish mother, making sure there's enough food on the table. So yeah, barbecue, corn. My husband's from South Africa, so, they call it a braai. So just making sure, everything is on the table. Seasonally, summer wise, that's probably what I would have. Probably just, that's the
Nice.
safest bet, right?
Yeah.
Chicken, hamburgers.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's a great way to like gather people. Barbecues are fantastic for
Yeah.
getting people together and hosting people and having fun. So, no, that's awesome. All right. And then third and last question, when it comes to your caffeinated beverage of choice, if you have one, what is your go-to?
Oh, I'm a Diet Coke fan.
Okay. Yeah. Now, do you have a preference of where it comes from? Because I actually have had guests that say there are specific places that you get Diet Coke from a fountain that are the best.
So if I was to buy a soda, a caffeinated beverage from like the refrigerator section, it would probably be a bottle. But to be
Okay.
honest, like I prefer Pepsi, Diet Pepsi from a fountain. I would
Okay.
never buy Diet Pepsi unless that's the last resort in the refrigerator. But if it's a fountain drink, I probably would go Pepsi over Coke. I don't know why. I mean,
How
fountain drinks do
funny.
tend to taste better, but usually go from the refrigerator section of like the convenience store normally. I try not
Okay.
to buy drink soda that much. Plus, it's
Yeah.
cost of like, not spending that much money on a soda unless
Yeah.
I'm buying it at a restaurant. But
Yeah. Okay. So fountain Diet Pepsi,
yeah,
bottle Diet Coke.
yeah.
Interesting.
What is your choice?
When it comes to and these are caffeinated, so this still qualifies. I really like Arnold Palmer's, so I would go with a lemonade and iced tea mixture
Like Arizona.
as my absolute go-to. But then coffee would be my caffeine, I guess, like from a hot standpoint, and even cold brew. I really like a good cold brew. So Starbucks has some good cold brews with the cream topper that they put on there that are pretty good, I will say. And so I like that. But yeah, that's kind of I'll drink black coffee. I'm not bougie.
I'm not a coffee fan, so.
All right. Well, thank you for answering. And now it's time to get down the road of all things that you've been a part of, Kim. And I'd really like to just start with your journey into multifamily. How did you get here? And how did you get to your specific seat where you're at now?
Sure. So I have an interesting background. I'm a marketing major. And I came out of college, what do you want to do with yourself? So I ended up at actually a car dealership
Hmm.
in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, that had 11 different dealerships under one roof. So that was my first taste of many different, as in like multi-family, I guess, different types of brands under one roof. From
Uh-huh.
there, interesting enough, when I moved closer to Philadelphia, I worked for a company that sold funeral cars. So instead of having like a Lexus or like a Toyota sitting in front of me, I had a hearse. I had hearses and funeral limousines sitting there, and all the sales guys were
Interesting.
funeral directors. So those stories that they told were very interesting. Once it was time to get out of the dealership world, just applying for jobs. I had never heard of multifamily, just applying for jobs. And I ended up, 15 years ago at Morgan Properties just as marketing assistant. So I was sort of hired. It was just at the start. Facebook wasn't even out, no social media. The ILSs were really pretty much like a little bit of a hot mess, and just, worked with them to get at the time we had about 120 properties, with one login. There were 120 different logins, different people were looking. So I spent probably the first year of just really spending time in every single ILS site, cleaning everything up. But in that time, I sort of got to learn the back end and, the front end, and, how the products would work. So once I spent that much time in there, just the relationship I would start building with like my ILS vendors, just really being like, maybe you should do this, or look at this, and this doesn't work. So I think that really taught me a lot, spending in the weeds. I mean, I was in the weeds of really getting involved with how all those products worked. And as time evolved, went on, social media came, and I got involved with that. And so my job sort of progressed, and I took on more. And then I sort of, and as Morgan Properties grew, went from 120 properties to, 360. So, as that has grown, and I've just been and as technology has improved over time, just getting more involved in everything. I know how all the products work in the back end, from all the PMS systems and how everything talks to each other, APIs. So it sort of has helped elevate me in my position. And here I
That's
am.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So when it comes to property management software, do you for Morgan, do you guys use various or do you stick with one?
So for the most, probably 99%, we stick with one.
Oh, okay.
So luckily we're not third party, so we can
Oh,
just,
okay.
stick with one. Um, we don't have to follow different suits, but we're dipping our toes into another one,
Okay.
just to test very small amount of properties on, just to see, what else is out there. So, but for the
Okay.
most part, we're single.
So who's the one you use at most properties?
ERD. So our ERD,
Already.
the majority,
Okay. Which is a lot of people.
which is a lot of
A lot
people.
of
Yeah,
yardies out there.
we have, yes, a lot of properties on ERD.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Always curious what people are using, and we're on the road of integrations with Yardi. We're in a beta test with communities that we're were customers of ours, and so we're excited to get that over with and be able to provide an integration. But yeah, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah,
The
it's a whole thing, and
integration
there's a lot
process
of
and
companies
something
on it. So it's an important API to have under your belt. I mean, they're all
totally.
important, but without that one, you do lose a lot of management companies.
Yeah, yeah. No, integrations, I mean, it can be helpful until they're not. Like, you can't just say you're integrated, because that just it's just a way to get business for some people. The
Yeah.
integration's got to be valuable. Like, it's got to do something of
Yeah,
substance.
and you
So
have to keep up, and you have to push, and you have to ask questions, because as we evolve, these integrations have to evolve as well, and it's important that both managers and vendors, continue to ask for the changes, because
right,
you can't settle with what it is. You have to continue to push forward. Otherwise, we can't move forward as an industry.
totally. Yeah, and hopefully that just continues to improve. Now, somebody like yourself who has actually spent time getting in the weeds, getting on the back end of things, talking to vendors, even being on advisory boards. That's one of the things that you did bring up, as you are on a number of advisory boards with prop tech companies, and I'd love to know like your experience with that aspect and what it's like to be able to speak into the things people are doing when it comes to prop tech, and what are you seeing when it comes to trends in that space?
Trends in prop tech, or trends
Yeah,
in.
because you go to AIM. I know you're on the advisory board even for that, and so you're privy to a lot of different things that some other people really aren't. So
Yeah.
what are you seeing?
So it's interesting. So no matter how big, how small we all are, I think we're all in the same situation. The conversations, I'm on a few advisory boards where there are large companies and there are small companies. In some cases, the larger companies have more funds to try things, but at the same time, we will run into the same API issues. We'll run into the same issues as smaller companies. So, what we're finding is we all want to move forward, and we're all sort of
Yeah.
running into the same brick wall over and over again.
Mhm.
You want to try something and then you can't do it, right? And then, that game. So that's a huge thing, is that no matter what size you are, we're sort of all in the same situation, looking
Yeah.
for products that we want to use.
Hmm.
So, I think a big thing about the advisory boards are, they see things from their point of view, and they're developers and people that work for the company. But when they ask for us, that helps. They ask us questions that helps them, I guess, fight on their end, for the improvements, and and the changes that should be made. And they listen. I mean, the amount of calls I've been on, and then people actually make change on their product for the good of things, is really
Hmm.
amazing. And I think having the ear, or listening, to the clients who actually use the product is a really great thing, because you can
Hmm.
make a lot of positive change for your products if you're actually listening. Because just because it's your product and you work there doesn't mean you always know what's right, and you also don't know the customer behavior, two aspects. You have the customer, so you have the management company, but you also have the prospect. So every prospect. So there's two people you need to please. You also need to pick who you want to please,
Hmm.
right? So it's the prospect using your product. Do you please them, or do you please the management company? So it's a fine line also, and it's important, I guess, in a way, to do both, or make the decision who who your product is for. In the
Absolutely. One, you brought up as a passion of yours the customer experience, and I'm imagining when it comes to all things, whether it's technology or the service you provide to your residents, all of it has to be in with the mindfulness of the resident. Right. At the end of the day, they're the end user, especially if it's tech that they're going to use like directly. Um, so, what do you see out there when it comes to the quality of the resident experience when it comes to all that, when it comes to technology, and what are you looking for?
So it's interesting. So I think a lot of products that are out there really focus on the prospect. to the whole experience of getting a prospect in. And I think that only probably in the past few years we've started seeing people focus on the resident experience.
Mm,
But I think that what I found, some of the products we use are not fully up to par because they were created almost as a secondary and not as a first. And and then by now you're almost stuck. I don't say you're stuck, but like you're engaged with that product and it's harder to change. So, working with a lot of vendors to change the look and the feel. And, a lot of people use apps nowadays. Like we use apps to go to bank, and we use apps to,
right.
to listen to music and to different experiences that residents now expect that same experience from their management company to pay their rent, to, to maintenance concerns. And I don't think, from what I've seen, some of these portals are not fully up to date to where they should be. So
Mm,
I think that's a huge advantage what we should be taking part in.
mm,
Um, we deal with resident experience where rewards, so almost like do a survey or take a poll and give feedback and you get points. So those products are really great for residents. It's just, how do we get them to keep coming back, right? And I think that's a huge thing, is that we get people to sign up initially, and then that follow up. So just working with a lot of those companies too, to like, how can we get people to keep coming back, to like keep
sure.
using the product instead of a one-off.
Totally.
So that was really just, there are some products out there, I think, that they just need to be enhanced a little more.
Yeah. Do you have any, do you think that there's an opportunity, and what is the opportunity, that if somebody did it, it would be like super helpful, that you haven't seen, like nobody's doing this? So something that would actually get people to engage with it ongoing.
It's a good question. I mean, I think with the resident portal, I mean, no matter what, you're going to pay your rent, right? So,
Yeah,
and you're going to pay your maintenance. So,
sure.
it's like all of us. I'm sitting at my computer, but my phone is here, and I do some things on my computer, but I do other things on my phone. Like I
Sure.
prefer to scroll Facebook on my phone and not on my
Right.
computer. Like
Right.
it's weird. Like we'll stop and we'll switch back and forth. Um, I think I think the ease of it is just simple enough. Like, why are we reinventing the wheel? And I think that's a
Mm,
huge thing. Is like, why multifamily do we reinvent the wheel? Other
mm,
major companies have done it. Like, there's hotels that have really amazing portals and websites, and like, we don't have to think outside the box, because the humans we're used to a certain experience, so we don't need to create a new experience. Like,
right.
I think in some cases it's safe to steal some ideas.
Right.
So, let's not reinvent the wheel. It just has to be easy. I don't want to fill in a million things. I want to make sure that my credit card is saved, so I can hold down that credit card and just have it auto populate and put in my 3-digit code.
Right.
Things like that. It shouldn't take a long time or a lot of effort to actually fill in information online.
Totally. And it sounds like one of the things you brought up was there's a heavy burden that's been placed over the years on the leasing aspect when it comes to technology, and getting people to sign a lease or tour or any of that. But the just getting started on the resident experience. So do you think that there's an opportunity to have a solution that kind of bridges both?
So, from prospect to resident.
Uh-huh. And then renewal.
So there are some really great renewal platforms that are starting to come out as well. So there are companies who are really focusing on that, which is great. Um, I think you have to. It depends, because I think that a lot of times, as management companies, we want people to only live in a Morgan Properties community, or
Mm,
so and so community, and I don't know
sure.
if people are that loyal to the management company. You're going to be loyal to how much rent is, right? So the experience is, it's not me just going to Hilton, right, and always
Hmm.
staying at Hilton or always staying in a Hyatt. Um, I think that that's where we sort of run into it. I'm going to do what's best for my pocket, right?
Sure.
So if the rent is cheaper here, I'm going to move, no matter. we get a few people who like, my experience was so great, I'm going to live in another Morgan Properties community. But I think for
Yeah.
the most part, people will say the rent is so and so cheaper here, I'm going to move in.
Yeah. That
So
is something that I've heard discussed in the past, is like, how could we almost have a loyalty program within the industry and make it so that if you wanted to move but wanted to move to a different Morgan community, how could we make it so that these are connected in a way, and then there's almost like a loyalty aspect? You didn't stay there, but you moved to another, within the portfolio, so to
yeah.
speak.
I mean, that'd be great because we have a lot of properties that are like in a centralized region. So, if you wanted to stay, in the school district or something, yeah, that would be really amazing
Yeah.
to focus on
Yeah,
that.
because
That
just like you said, Hilton and other hospitality-based businesses,
yeah,
they have their rewards programs. They want to incentivize you to like keep going to a Hilton or keep going to a Hyatt or whatever. And it's just, I think as we progress, and like I think the customer service aspect and hospitality aspect kind of like creeps into multifamily more and more, that it only makes sense to a degree to like have some kind of like incentivizing staying.
yeah. I
You've
think
been a
we'll
good
eventually
renter.
get there. We'll eventually get there. I think,
Yeah.
it's also of like how many people you have working for your company, right? In different departments. Like, is that the focus, right? Until that's
Hmm.
a strict focus,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think we will eventually get there.
Right. Yeah. It has to be something that probably somebody's going to try it, and then everybody's going to follow suit because they're like, oh, I guess that works, and we better we better follow suit. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for speaking on that a little bit. When it comes to just being an advisor on different platforms, um, that also gives you the opportunity to facilitate like product connections within the industry, and that is something that you seem to have kind of a passion for, is kind of making these connections, being on different not only advisory boards but also having opportunities to be a part of AIM and like different speaking engagements where you're kind of helping the industry move forward. What is it that you have been able to do when it comes to like industry friends and making those connections tech wise?
So I don't even think, I mean, I don't think it has to do a thing with advisory board because some of the stuff I've done have nothing to do with, advisory boards. Some of the stuff is I can look at a product. I can look at products and be like, this is a great product and this is a great product. Like if they were together, that would be an amazing tool, right? That would
Interesting.
help a prospect. So one of the
Mm,
things which I'm the most proud of, because I think it's game changer for the user experience, is that we rolled out ingrained maps, which are amazing. It took us a really long time with a lot of properties, but I mean, what a beautiful piece of technology, right? That we have on our websites. Along with that, we do LCP tours. So, we have a 360 tour of every single amenity. So, I was looking at the map, and then I have the map on one page, and I have like my LCP 360s on another page. And I was like, why should somebody have to go look at this swimming pool here
hmm.
and have to go to another page to see the swimming pool? So, I spoke to both vendors. I'm like, listen, how great would it be if you had an integration to feed your swimming pool into your map, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I mentioned it. They talked at some conference and they made it happen. So now on every single one of my maps, at every amenity we have, you can do a tour of the pool or you can do a tour of the fitness center, just from the map. So you can get a better experience of the community from one page instead of having to jump back and forth.
Absolutely.
So that's, that was one connection I made, which to me, I think has really made a difference in our maps, and you're keeping them on one page instead of jumping back and forth, but they can get
Yeah.
a better experience and actually see, they can see the swimming pools. They don't actually have to come to the property to see a swimming pool, right? They can be on the map and see that, or the playground, or, whatever amenity they're looking at. So
Yeah.
just that relationship with those two companies, and I know they've built that out with other companies as well. It's just, just thinking how sitting here as a prospect and what they would want to see, while they're on their phone playing around or they're sitting on their couch playing around, and what would make their life easier. And that's a lot
Totally.
how to make somebody's life easier with different products.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Is there any other examples that you've seen and you've made connections and it's like, I use both of these things. You guys need to work together.
I've tried some and it's backfired on me because then they both create
Okay.
their own products. But
Uh,
I tried to do something for me and then it backfired.
yeah.
I mean, both of them are successful in their aspects, but I was trying to merge it together. But in the end, I mentioned something, even if I don't use the product, I'm very happy to talk to vendors. I'm like, you should do this, right? Because it's easier for
Yeah.
me to give an idea than necessarily get them, as a vendor here. But I've had plenty of vendors being like, "You told us this, and now that's part of our business," and it's really been an amazing change for us. So, um, just mentioning ideas. I like to throw ideas out there. Some of them
Yeah.
stick, some of them are really good. Some of them,
Yeah.
someone told me, "Oh, that's a bad idea." I'm like, "You're not supposed to tell people it's a bad idea. You don't need to use it, but you don't need to tell
Yeah.
somebody it wasn't a great idea." But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm more of like a spitball, like a thought comes to mind, and it's like, oh, that could
Well,
work.
I mean, that's very generous of you. I mean, uh being, somebody that's, on these advisory boards or just sharing ideas, like I know from my standpoint, when we get that, it's very valuable. And hearing from the user before the indust user, the ones that buy it, right, like you guys, is super important because, like you said, and actually I was just at a conference hearing from some operators. It was a student conference, and they were just talking about how, the best vendors or suppliers that they work with are the ones that are listening to what the needs are and not just making things that are cool. It's like, all right, you're spending a lot of effort on something that is cool but isn't super useful.
That's right. If it's not useful, don't waste your time. Yeah,
It's like almost draw back on the cool aspect, just make something that we'll use.
yeah, easy. People want ease, right? Especially
Right.
if a tool most likely you're going to use on your phone. If it's not easy to use, then rethink your thought process.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And our system is like all web based, and we assume most people are using their phone for everything.
Yeah,
Registering a vehicle, looking at a map, whatever it is, it's on a phone. Like nobody's getting on a computer to do those things because they're trying to park their car. They're trying to,
right.
reserve a amenity or whatever. And it's like, no, they're not jumping on a computer.
Unless you're sitting at work, right?
Sure, sure. But even then, it's like
Yeah.
they just get in the habit, I
Mhm.
think. It's like there's certain activities, like you said, I get on Facebook. It's not on a computer, it's on my phone. Like
If I
it's
can
just really
scroll, like if I'm scrolling, I'd rather sit my phone than use my mouse. Yeah.
right. Right. No, that makes sense. A lot of sense. All right. Well, I really appreciate those pieces of feedback. It's really helpful to me, and I'm sure other people. And um, the more we can lean into, is there any really lean into that idea of like sharing ideas? Um, I know at the beginning you kind of mentioned when it comes to building community, you actually like to further relationships when it comes to suppliers and vendors, as well as other industry operators and such. Do you find that some people shy away from that, but you find great value in it?
Of sharing feedback.
Or
So,
sharing feedback and just getting to know your supplier?
well, listen. I always think it's important to get to know, your supplier, your partners. I think that they're your biggest advocates in, helping you. They're your voice for their company. One thing I always say is be honest. Always be honest from this end. One thing is maybe the people that know me is that I'm very blunt. Maybe it's this
Yeah.
East Coast thing. When you all come to Philadelphia, you'll realize it's not West Coast. I call it East Coast blunt or East Coast real. We are not
Yeah.
messing around. Like we're just going to tell you how it is.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge thing. Probably where I am today because I'll sit on a call and it might be not what people want to hear, but I'm very blunt about, not in a rude way, but like that's not going to work, or I'll say things probably a little shock value in some cases, but it makes people realize that I know what I'm talking about, and I'm honest about it. Like, I'm not going to beat around the bush. If your product's not working, I'm going to let you know. I'm
Yeah.
going to be nice about it, but I'm still going to let you know that your product's not working or your product is working. And I think that's important. I think it's important um, for management company people to speak up. Like, don't be afraid. Like, just because something is the way it is doesn't mean it's right.
Mm,
So if you feel that something is wrong, just make sure you speak up. You don't have to live with things the way they are.
yeah.
If you bring up something and it's truly valid, people will make that change. But don't be afraid to voice that concern as well. So just
Yeah.
always have a voice.
Yeah. And I think most suppliers, or at least, I mean, I would hope so, um, value greatly your feedback like that
Yeah.
because,
I wouldn't
I
say
mean,
all, but majority, yes. There are some that like
well,
they don't care what you say, that it is their way or the highway. But I'd say that 95% of companies that I work with definitely listen and they value.
yeah. So I would echo that, and I would encourage other people that may be listening that if you have ideas and you're the user of this product and you've already paid for it, like tell the company because at some point it could be something that would benefit them to make that change, and then in the end if they made the change it'd benefit you. So it's like it's a win-win when you can augment a technology for the betterment of a community.
And
So
it could benefit other management companies as well. I mean, like your
absolutely.
voice could change the industry as a whole.
Right. Yeah. The more we can hear from and work together. Like and that's the thing. I think technology is becoming so much more a part of the day-to-day of like your guys' lives that we need to be more aligned and like talking to each other to make it so we can move into the future faster.
Yeah.
Like,
Everybody should play nice in the sandbox together, because I think
yeah.
that playing nice in the sandbox, as we did as children, could really, can grow partnerships where you least expected. And,
Hmm.
it could help your APIs, and, somebody could mention something that, oh, you could use it this way. And I think that can grow, it could grow all of our products. People, even different vendors actually spoke to each other, because I think a
Yeah.
lot of times you go to a conference and like vendors are in their own area, and it really sometimes amazes me that like I've been to this conference and I see the same people and they don't know each other, right? Because
Mm,
everybody's and I'm like, how do you not know so and so? And I'm like, they've sat next to a booth with you for like years. I've seen it, and like they don't. So
yeah.
I enjoy introducing people, but I think even different vendors talking to different companies just to learning, could help that as well.
Absolutely. So that's definitely an area of opportunity that we could all work better together always. Is there any other things that you think are like roadblocks to innovation that you see as something that's pretty common or that would make things even better?
So I'll go back to what we started with, the APIs, and I think that
Hmm.
might be some from some different places. I think those are some of the biggest roadblocks of like information that we own as management companies that we can't share out, right? Because
Mm.
the API wasn't thought of 5 years ago or wasn't thought of in the newest version. And I think that's the biggest roadblock, even for your company, like, having an API, and the next step of, could be game changer for parking, right? If you could share that
We
information
have one.
into a PMS, and then into the
Totally.
PMS, but then you selling that on like my website, right?
Mm.
So, as I can say, oh, this is the unit I want on my map, and then this is the parking spot I want, right? And
Mhm.
then that automatically goes into the system. So, really, I think that the APIs for some of these larger companies who are offering the APIs, I think that's probably some of the biggest roadblocks, because there are so many prop tech companies with such amazing ideas and they hit a wall and they can't
Mhm.
get the information, and then we can't move forward, right? And then it stalls the whole project where it could could create something beautiful. So
Hmm.
I think getting, a lot of these, everybody playing nice in the sandbox and
Yeah.
feeding information. Like if I want to feed my information, I should be allowed to feed it, right?
No, totally.
You should figure out how to do that. So I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest roadblocks. I think the prop tech companies have great ideas. It's just a matter of extracting or pushing in is where we'll run into issues.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we tend to agree. Like our API, we have one, and we like to share it. Like we view the data that. So if somebody's working with us, we figure they own that. That's their data. It's not like for us to like hold on to, and like if anything, them giving access to their community is like a privilege, right? Like they and and being able to integrate with property management software is a big part of that as well. And they tend to like to say they own it. So
Okay.
so it's that. I mean, for me, that tends to be kind of the one that can be hardest hurdle to get through is
Yeah.
having an API, but having a lot of roadblocks to get to it.
Yes.
So
That's the biggest issue.
yeah, we found a company, and maybe this is the one you're talking about on the low key, Fortress, and they're in Tennessee. They're a property management software, and I had CEO Carrie Davis on the show quite a few months ago, but it was really interesting their approach and being more open with their API and being more like trying to like just allow companies like ours to work with them, which is like just a breath of fresh air and kind of cool. And so I was like, all right, well, I mean, if that's where we're headed as an industry, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, it's for head stuff. Yes.
Yeah. So, anyways, it sounds like some people are trying to create things that are a little more open, sharing, and sharing is caring.
The sandbox is inviting friends, but there's still people sitting on the outside with their shovels, not ready to jump in yet. So
Yeah. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this. Yeah. No, I think the more we can work together, the better. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing on those things. And the last thing that you and I got to talk about, and not necessarily in the most positive sense, but with your dogs today, but just that you have some really fun dogs that have personality and are just really big, honestly.
really good. Yeah.
I'd never heard of this breed. So now say what they are again. You have you have two different, but
Okay, so I have South African Borbals,
yes.
Boerboel. So if you want to look that up, and then I have two black labs. So, I mean, the Borbals, the nicest dog. My labs are wonderful. They used to play. They're old now, but they used to swim and play. These
Yeah.
Borbals, they like to lay on the couch. I have one in particular who he likes to eat carbohydrates a lot.
Okay.
He's probably standing tall. He's about 6 foot, so he can reach the microwave. So to hide pizza when we're done, we'll put the pizza in the microwave. So no one can get it, and he can take the pizza out of the microwave and consume an entire. He wants to eat an entire pizza.
Oh
He
wow.
loves loaves of bread. He will just steal an entire loaf of bread. So my grocery bill tends to be higher because he tends to eat most of my food.
Oh my
When
gosh.
we're
Well,
not
and
in the kitchen, but.
you said they are around 160 pounds.
So my largest, he's about 160. He was weighed today at the vet after a good little vet visit.
Uh-huh.
And then my smallest, the sister is about 160. And I have another one who's 150. So
Okay.
they do have an Instagram, or at least the white one who steals food has an Instagram page. He once took out the doggy door, which then fell into my oven and smashed it. So I had to get a whole new oven because it broke. Took out the doggy door, then took out, my oven in the
Oh
kitchen.
my.
So a lot of it's an experience, but they're
Oh
wonderful.
my.
We love my
Yeah.
children, so
And you did you learn about those dogs? Because you mentioned your husband is from South Africa.
So my husband's from South Africa, but we have a timeshare. We go to Aruba every year, and we go to this like an animal sanctuary, and we went once, and they had the biggest dogs I've ever seen, and just they would lay around, and they were all over the property, and I was like, one day I want this dog, I want this dog, and then during COVID, my husband took it upon himself to not get one. He got three flown in from Africa.
Oh my.
So yeah, we had to go to JFK. We picked them up in this month. They're already at 4 months. They were already like 40 pounds. Um, yeah. So yeah, I was wanted one, and then I got two, and then like 2 weeks later, a third one came. Did not want him, but they're the best, and I couldn't imagine life without. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome.
they're fun, and they're very large, and no one's gonna break into my house. So
No kidding. So, and you have like person for person. So you have a family of five, right?
family of five
And then
dogs.
five dogs. So does each person claim one dog? Like they relate best to one of them, or
So the labs prefer me.
okay,
The female Borble, she just lays, like, she's a female. She tends to like the females. There's four females in my house. She tends to
uh-huh,
like to hang out with anywhere there's in a room with the girls. So she
okay,
likes the girls. The one who eats all the carbohydrates, Gobi, he tends to like hang out with my husband when I'm
okay,
not around because I feed him and walk him.
uh-huh,
And then Jabali, who's our male, he just likes the couch. He has a particular spot on the couch, which is in the center of the couch. So he tends to like, if that spot's open, he takes it. So
nice.
yeah,
That's funny.
yeah.
What's the Instagram that you have rolling for your
It's
dog?
it's actually for Gobi, but it's Gobi the Borble, Gobi the Borble, Boerbol, and you'll just see the nonsense that goes on in my house, like absolute
Okay.
nonsense. That only this dog. He's the only troublemaker. He is, if there's food there, he'll steal it. Like 10 seconds.
Oh
Like he likes chocolate chip pancakes. Like my daughter's on her phone and the pancakes are there, and she's in her phone, the pancakes are gone, and she doesn't even see it. Like he's very
yeah,
still when it comes
that's
to
funny.
stealing food. So yeah, it's a whole page of Gobi at the Borble.
All right. Well, I have to check that out because I always enjoy a dog that gets into things. Nothing better than see the mischief that an animal can provide to your entertainment for sure.
Or the amount of
Those are the
people.
types of things that typically win like America's Got Funniest Home Videos. That used to be a thing. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but
Yeah. No, I had one where he was trying to steal pasta. My daughter like grabbed it from his mouth, and I uploaded it, and it had like a million views
no
in like
way.
24 hours. Like that was the only one. Something maybe with children and dogs. I'm just like, she's like, I got it. It's like a whole thing of pasta. It's like a million views in like a day. So that was like
That's nuts.
my claim to fame for Gobi. But
Wow. How many people follow your Instagram?
not like 100 something. Not nothing. I
Okay.
don't really push it that hard. It's just
Yeah.
more for me to like compile all my Gobi
Memories for
nonsense.
yourself.
Yeah, or if we go out and like he's a monstrous dog, so if someone sees him, I tend to be like, oh, we follow Gobi. People want to know more about Borbles. If they want a Borble, I'm like, this is what you could possibly get. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, is there no way to get them in the United States? Like you literally have to get it from South
no, they're
Africa?
they're breeders in the States, but so
Oh,
the
okay.
two black ones come from one of the best breeders in the world. She's in South Africa, so there
Oh,
there are
okay.
breeders all over. We do breed. We stud out the two males. So Gobi has
Okay.
just had a litter of 12, which can you imagine carrying 12? Like they come out and they're already like 5 pounds. So cutest
Wow.
things I've ever seen. Um, but yeah, so you get them in the States, but
Okay.
you know if you want.
Thanks to you guys.
Well, now, but there are breeders all over the place. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're
I
they're
can't imagine, especially coming from South Africa. That had to have been an expensive dog. Dogs in general are expensive.
I don't want to discuss it. Especially the two flew from, I think that from Johannesburg to Amsterdam, got out, spent a night, got a shower, got food, and then took the second leg to JFK. So I
Oh,
don't
wow.
want to discuss how much it costs. They still cost me a lot of money. The vet bill today, I was sort of happy it was only like $28
Oh,
because,
man.
pet insurance. If you don't have pet insurance, I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah. Especially with a dog like that. I was just going to
Yeah.
say, do you have pet insurance?
Yeah, for all 5 of my dogs. So
Oh,
labs
yeah.
too. Labs probably got all my money back for those labs too. So I'm a huge
Oh, yeah.
advocate if you don't
Yeah.
have insurance. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I used to actually work in the world of pets. My first job out of college was I was a salesman for a pet food company. So I was in the pet specialty world for 5 years of my life, learning a lot about that world. But now it's been like, I don't know, I think been out of it for 15 years, which is crazy to think. But
I mean,
yeah,
I would always I go through 90 pounds of dog food every 3 weeks. So
wow.
yeah, that's just the kibble on top of like I buy raw, they eat raw chicken, sardines on top of that. So yeah.
Sounds like they would just eat a chicken. Like,
Oh, they would eat a chicken. Oh, 100. Yeah. I mean, if they caught one, they possibly could eat it, but they tend to like it raw, just bones. They just throw it in their food and chicken
wow.
burgers.
Yeah,
They just inhale
that's
it.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, oh man. Yeah, that's a lot of food.
It's
I
a
have
lot
a
of,
cat. I have one cat.
you're not going through 90 pounds of food.
Sure not. I sure am not, and I'm okay with that. I got 3 kids too, so I'm like, I got my kids. They're my pets mostly, and then I have a cat. That's the way I look at it.
Did the cat prefer you or other?
Oh, you know what? So it's funny. We didn't have an animal I had a cat quite a few years ago. And when we had our first son, we actually gave our cat to my mother-in-law because it was just like we can't handle this right now. And then we just now have a cat for like 10 years, and then a cat just shows up on our back porch, and we're thinking, oh, this belongs to somebody. We shouldn't feed it. We don't want to like confuse it and whatever. So we just didn't. So for like a week and a half, 2 weeks, it just kept coming back, and we weren't feeding it, but we would go outside and it would get up on our lap, and we were like, what is happening? And then eventually we're like, I guess we should feed you. And then he snuck in our house. Like he imprinted himself on us. And then we were trying to find the owner, and we never did. And so we were like, I guess you're our cat.
He knew you were cat people. He wouldn't come to my house. We're not cat people, but obviously he felt the vibe that you were cat people.
I guess. Yeah, it was crazy. And what was so wild, so he must have been owned by somebody at some point. We put a litter box down and he just jumped right in and used it.
Ooh.
And I was like, okay. I mean, this is the weirdest, easiest adoption I've ever I guess we own a cat. So it's been a year.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
we definitely
I would enjoy it.
Yeah. So he's been a good cat. But yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to commit to a dog because they're a little more needy.
No, they're wonderful. They're the best. I'd add more.
I would just have to like find somebody to take care of them if ever we left. The nice thing about the cat,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
you can find people that stay at your house. The Warbles we kennel because I don't know if I trust that. But usually you can find someone to watch them in your house.
True. All right. Well, Kim, it's been so great to have you today. I really appreciate you giving me some of your time and sharing some of your insights into the world of technology and property management. It really is so helpful to me and others, I'm sure, that will watch this in the future. So thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, just like Kim jumped on and was the boss of the show today on Boss Talks 88, you too can be a guest on Boss Talks. I love to give people in the industry a spot to elevate themselves, share what makes them a boss and what makes them rock at their position, regardless of what that is. You could be a leasing agent, a community manager, somebody in leasing and in the marketing field, or a regional and above. I've had some great CEOs and stuff too. So whatever you're doing and rocking at, I'd love to learn more about what you're doing and have you on the show. So reach out to me and we can make it happen. Thanks so much for watching today, and we will check you next time on Boss Talks, Wednesday at noon Pacific. See you guys later.